Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thank you so much for the continued support on the channel and the videos, and today I get to continue my favourite series on the channel, the perfect off seasons. And today we're going to look at one of the more popular ones, the New York Jets. We're going to look at their coaching problems they've had, how they've got to fix that, their cuts and re-sign periods, free agency where they have plenty of money to go attack players, and eventually a mock draft. We're also going to have a small conversation about the QB position and where I'm going. Now, without further ado, let's get right into the video. Before we talk about any coaching or anything like that, I'm going to get the QB controversy off my chest. Sam Darnold is a good quarterback, and I'm going to keep him in New York. I think there's no quarterback at the number 2 pick who is better than Darnold, and I don't think they're going to get Deshaun Watson. The murmuring is around the NFL media now. They've had their run with Miami. They're now going to have a run with New York. Next week it'll be San Francisco. They're going to keep looping teams round until something sticks. But the New York Jets haven't got a good enough team to go and get Watson. Their team has too many holes to go and mortgage a future to go get him. Yes, Daniel Jeremiah, the NFL insider, posted a tweet a couple of days ago looking at a possible way of they can mount up 3 or 4 first round picks without ever truly losing a first round pick by giving up the years they have doubles and giving up late firsts, and it's all still possible. But for this rebuild and for the purpose of this rebuild, Darnold is the quarterback. I think under good coaching and under a better scheme he will succeed. And let's get on to the topic of good coaching. A couple of days ago, after the firing of Adam Gase, which was more than inevitable, they hired Robert Salah, the defensive coordinator out of San Francisco. This hire is a home run. You look at the AFC East right now. You've Tua Tagovailoa, you've the Pats who are going to get a young quarterback, and you've Josh Allen. That's going to be 3 dangerous quarterbacks and dangerous offenses. So you may as well build a defense to go and stop it. If you want to win the AFC East for the next 10 years, you have to go through Buffalo right now, through that offense. So why try to get an offensive coach when a defensive one's even better? Robert Salah in San Francisco's had a top 10 defense the last 3 years, top 6 defense last year, and considering the injuries they had, is an astounding accomplishment. You have to remember, they played games without their number 1, 2, 3 and 4 D linemen and their number 1, 2 and 3 DBs. It's a ridiculous achievement for him to do that with such a dying cast. So far he hasn't hired a DC. He's hired Mike LaFleur, the brother of Matt LaFleur, the Green Bay head coach, for the offensive coordinator. And I think that also is going to tail into the rest of my picks. They're going to run a very multi-back offense. They're going to try to keep the ball out of Darnold's hands as much as they can to give him the best possibility of succeeding. Darnold might never be a 45 drop back quarterback 45 times a game, 50 times a game, but he could be better than what Jimmy G was in a similar system. So I think for this year, for the Jets, they're going to look at tight ends, they're going to look at O-line, they're going to look at running backs. I think that's a big concern for them. But I do think most of the money is going to go on building a defense that Salah can put his brand on. With that being said, let's get straight into the cuts and re-signings. When you look at the Jets roster, there's 1 or 2 contracts that may lead to being cut or getting restructured. Jameson Crowder's the main one, but he's been an incredible threat out of the slot for Darnold in his time in New York, so I don't see any big notable cuts. When I'm looking at the cuts for the team, I'm looking at big name players on big contracts. They're going to go and cut some practice squad players to make up a few million and overall, but there's no big ones in my mind. When it comes to re-signing, there's a couple of very big names I think they have to bring back, A, for the long term, and B, to stop this defense being a dumpster fire for a year or 2. Marcus May, Brian Poole, Bradley McDougall, Neville Hewitt, Patrick Onwuasor are all defenders that have had up and down seasons, but overall I think are good. Marcus May, I believe, to be one of the best safeties in the league. On a very bad defense for his whole career, a bad defense, he has been brilliant. He's always popping up with big plays, interceptions, forced fumbles. I really like Marcus May. I think if New York don't re-sign him, wait and see him go be a Pro Bowl talent anywhere else in the league on a better defense. A lot of them, the Brian Pooles, Bradley McDougals and Neville Hewitts, they're 1 or 2 year deals in an attempt just to hold off on a complete and utter disaster defense. Players that are fittable into any scheme. Marcus May is going to be a 3-year, $27 to $30 million deal. Poole, McDougall and Hewitt all taking $2 or $3 million a year. And then Patrick Oniswar looked very good in limited snaps in Baltimore. Took a 1-year deal in New York, I believe attempting to have a big year and get the contract, and then bang, after one game the injury hit, season ending. But he's fast and he's long, and he's a poor man's Fred Warner in my opinion, with the size and the range, and I think Robert Salah is going to want to keep him, so I have them taking a risk and a flyer and signing him to a 4-year deal, $18 million, with the plan being sign him now and in 2 years time that's a steal, rather than sign him to a 1-year deal, him have a great year and his market value fly up. The only offensive player I'm re-signing if I'm the Jets is Brashad Perryman. They need wide receiver help anyway. Even if it's just Perryman and Crowder in the roster, they need more help than that. But I think Perryman's a good receiver. I think there was a lot of questions asked in Tampa Bay. Was he getting success just because of who else was on the board? You know, Evans and Godwin and all. But I think he had good success in New York. Stats weren't really all there, but nor was the quarterback play. I think he made enough play to get himself a contract, 3 years, $14 million. And with those 5 or 6 moves, it leaves us with about $33 million in cap space. That's including our draft picks and all. So we have plenty of money to go into free agency with. And I'm going into this free agency with 4 players in mind. 2 offense, 2 defense. Let's get right into it. After looking up and down the roster, you could make a shorter list of where the team doesn't have needs than needs. Tight end, wide receiver, running back, O-line, D-line, linebackers. In reality, they probably need a secondary overhaul completely, but I've managed to re-sign enough pieces to offlay that for another season. In free agency, I'm going to go after D-line, tight end, running back. I'm going to go after a big name DB as well. But I'm going to be smart about it. Straight off the bat, a name that I saw in the D-line market is Solomon Thomas, coming from San Francisco. Was about to have a breakout year in the system until the injury hit him and ended his year early, about week 5 or 6. I think Salah knows the player well and is willing to pay the money to bring him into New York. 3 years, about 17 million, just over 5 million a year, isn't a terrible big deal for a player like that. The problem you have with Thomas is he's not exceptional at anything. He's not great against the run. He's not a great pass rusher. He's not a great run stuffer. But he's good at everything. And I think that's something that the New York Jets need, is a level of consistency that they haven't had before at that position. Leonard Williams was the last one to do it. I think Quinnen Williams has the potential to be a very good defensive tackle in the NFL. But when teams realise that he's the only threat on the D-line, he very quickly gets doubled and tripled. So I think you need to help him there. Next, we're going to go to the offensive side of the ball. We talked about running backs, and if you watched my video yesterday, I'll tag it right now, talking about the Falcons rebuild. I told them they couldn't re-sign Todd Gurley because in an Arthur Smith offense, it's a tailback. It's one running back does it all. And we're going to flip the script. In a Salah defense and an offense and a San Francisco-based system, it's a multi-running back set. It allows you to have running backs take plays off. And for that reason, I'm going to go sign Todd Gurley. 2 years, 10 million, not a lot of money. But I believe pairing him with a rookie back in the draft, or pairing him with Josh Adams or Frank Gore, who want to bring back one of the veterans, allows him to run a similar scheme to San Francisco with multiple tailbacks running multiple setups. It works well for Gurley as he gets plays off to get the rest. We know his knees can't hack it anymore, so we're going to give him the break he deserves. We're going to stay in the offense side of the ball now and look at the tight end position. If you look at the tight ends in the draft this year, there's Kyle Pitts, and then there's the rest. And I just don't think with the way that the roster is for New York, they can afford to spend a first round pick on him. And I don't believe he's there at their second first round pick, and you definitely don't take him at number 2. So I look through who's on the block, who is signable. There's Gerald Everett, there's a few others, but I fell on Jonnu Smith out of Tennessee. He's big, he's athletic. His run blocking's not great, but it's not terrible either. You'll get away with it. 4 years, $28 million. It's a big contract, but you're also banking on him being good. You're taking the risk at $7 million a year. It's a hard decision to make if you're New York, but you have to put the money in this team somewhere. To quote Daniel Evans, scared money don't make money. You have to put the money down and make the risks. You saw at San Francisco how well it worked with a good tight end. George Kittle, for example. And I don't think Jonnu Smith is anywhere near that level, but I think he's a similar build, athletic, versatile, can play up the field, can play the slants. I think he's well-rounded. The final player I'm going to look at, a DB, and that's Richard Sherman. He said a couple of months ago that he thinks he's done in San Francisco. His time there is finished. And in a podcast he was on yesterday, he talked about how he believes New York Jets have got a great signing and he thinks Deshaun Watson should go there. That just tells me that he likes New York as well. He believes that's a good spot. So why not he join him there? 1 year, $7 million. It's a 1 year deal, allowing Sherman, yes, I understand he might want to go to a contender, but if you look at the contenders in the NFL right now, either they don't have the money or they don't need a next cornerback. It leaves questions. I believe Sherman could retire, but if he doesn't, I think a 1 year deal in New York would be a great fit for him. Overall, I have the Jets looking at Solomon Thomas, Jonnu Smith, Todd Gurley and Richard Sherman. If they sign those four guys, they still have just under $10 million in cap space left to make another move or two for depth, for cover. They need O-line help, but I believe this draft has good O-line players, so we're going to look there to fill that hole. But overall, I think that fills four massive holes on the roster, offense and defense. And now we're going to see what else we can fill in the best part of the video, and that's the mock draft. So here we are, we're at the mock draft, and as I said earlier on, I'm rocking with Darnold. Now last year the Jets took a big risk taking Mekhi Becton out of Louisville so early, but it's a home run. He looks brilliant, looks like a mauler, and I'm going to pair him up with one of the best tackle prospects for a decade, and that's Penei Sewell out of Oregon. I think that's been the big problem when you look at Darnold and his time in New York. They have not had offensive line there at all for him. And look at good young QBs across the league. Players like Baker Mayfield has had his problems. This year had an elite O-line, and what happens? Other rookie quarterbacks such as, drawing a blank now, but you can even look at the other way. Look at quarterbacks like Burrow, had a terrible O-line and had flashes, but also didn't get much success. You know, it's without the O-line, it's very tough to succeed because everything you do becomes that little bit faster. You can't no longer relax. But that's sort of the hole you're looking at. I think if you fix the O-line, especially the tackles, you suddenly give Darnold a chance. We're now looking at this draft class and wondering to ourselves, where is Zach Wilson going to go? Still on the block at 18. Still on the block at 19. Now, as the Jets, we have position needs here. One of them is falling to us, and we could get very lucky here. Unless the Tennessee Titans take him. And they do. Tennessee Titans take Jalen Waddle, the wide receiver that I wanted in the draft. But I'm not going to get too hung up over it. We need offensive line help. We need running back help. We need all sorts. But I'm not going to go too far down this list. I want Rondale Moore. I think he's explosive with the ball in his hand. He'll give Darnold an option of a quick out pass. Someone to throw the ball to in a screen or a slant, and he can get yards after the catch. So Rondale Moore is going to go 23. Now, I believe we always have a pick very high in the second round, so we'll just stay until that pick comes around. We still have needs at linebacker and at running back, but I believe running back is a tough one to pick that early because there's two good running backs, Travis Etienne and Najee Harris, and I'd be happy with both. We're going to see, hopefully one of them falls to us. We do still need a wee bit of linebacker help if possible, but I'm not too worried about linebacker help right now, because I think we've re-signed enough pieces to survive that position for a season. There's Nick Bolton away to Green Bay. Creed Humphrey, that's a tough one. I wanted Creed Humphrey in our team. We're going to take Najee Harris at 34. A Najee Harris, Todd Gurley backfield is electrifying. You could even sign Todd Gurley to that 1 year deal and just give them an option. But with Harris, you have an all-down back that can do it all. He can run, he can catch, he's fast, and he's powerful. So far we've taken Sewell at 2, we've taken Rondale Moore, the wide receiver out of Purdue, and we've taken Najee Harris, running back out of Alabama. But I'll see you at our next overall pick. And welcome back. We're on the clock at 66, and we're in a tough position. Jabril Cox, linebacker of LSU, is clearly the best linebacker on the board in my opinion. Far better than the rest. I'm not sure if he's there for our next pick, so I'm going to have to take the athletic linebacker of LSU. He truly can play sideline to sideline. The man is as athletic as linebackers come in this league today, and it's what you need. In a defense like Salah's, you need versatility. You need to be able to give different looks. You can't just keep playing the same setup constantly. I think he fills that hole for us. We've now drafted our main positional needs, and I think we're now going to fall into more of a BPA form of draft. Whoever's on the board at the best possible times. We're on the clock at 87 again. Look at linebackers, obviously we can't tell. We actually lost. Where did he go? The next linebacker went off the board there after we took. There we go. 2 linebackers went off the board, so we wouldn't have had him on the clock if we'd got there. Who's still on the board at 87? Chuba Hubbard. But I think this is a good chance to... Ooh. We're going to take Ronnie Perkins out of Oklahoma. Perkins, long and athletic, can get after the passer, has big problems in the run game. Really does get pushed over, but is a very good situational pass rusher. And I think that's something he can do very well. It's sort of like an Andrew Van Ginkel role of coming in on third downs, on passing downs, when you know he can get after the passer. That's going to give you a good chance now. Back on the clock and at 98. Obviously the Jets have lots of picks in this draft, lots of opportunities to go and get players to improve their roster. And we're going to take the best player on the board again. We're going to take Richard LeCounte out of Georgia. Very good safety, sideline to sideline again, similar to what you're looking at a linebacker. You want athleticism. Yes, we signed Marcus May and we kept Bradley McDougall, but this is a pairing you can start to go with. You lost Jamal Adams, the pairing with Marcus May, so let's get another rookie, go alongside him. This sets Ashton Davis, the rookie out of Cal they got last year, to drop more into the box, where I think he's more suited, more of like a nickel safety hybrid routine. But with that pick, we'll see you back again at our next overall pick. Back on the clock now at 1:30. It's actually our last pick in the draft, and it's perfect. We talked about wide receiver health, and we talked about how Rondale Moore's a smaller guy, Jameson Crowder will be a smaller guy, Brashad Perryman's more of a speed over the top guy. So it sets you up, you need a big body. I posted a tweet a couple of days ago in a video where I looked at different wide receiver rankings, and my deep dive in the whole class was Tamorrion Terry out of Florida State. 6'4", 210 pounds. The man is an animal of a wide receiver, and he has surprisingly good hands. Saying that, I'm going to draft him at 130. I think it's great value. I think it fills the roster out well. In this draft, we picked up a lot of value, but also filled gaps. I think that's the key to this draft for the Jets. You want to take the best player available at your needs. I know it sounds so basic, but sometimes teams don't do it. If they're going to reach for a quarterback at 2 and leave Sewell on the board when they're dying for a tackle but have Darnold, and that's the worry I have for them. It actually wasn't our last pick. What am I talking about? We have 3 more picks. At 138th overall. Who is still on the block? Is there any interior offensive lineman, a position we could be in need of? I like Jack Anderson. I'm going to go Jack Anderson. It's a reach, but I think he's the best one out of those options out of Texas. And what we're probably going to do is going to trade these 2 late picks for other pieces, because there's no one else on the board I really like in these rounds. But in saying that, I'll get you straight in to a review of the draft and a wee roundup. So that's us. Draft finished. And what a draft that would be for the Jets. Penei Sewell is a decade-wide talent. Rondale Moore, if it wasn't for him trying to sit out this year and not coming back fully healthy, would be a far higher pick. Yes, we missed out on Jalen Waddle by 1 selection. That's a tough one to take, but Rondale Moore still a great selection. Najee Harris looks like one of the best prospects in this draft. Nearly no bust potential. The man looks brilliant out of Alabama. Jabril Cox, an athletic linebacker. Then we get a few more depth pieces. Ronnie Perkins, Richard LeCounte, Jack Anderson. Filling holes and giving a bit of opportunity at the O-line for Jack Anderson. You don't know how good he's going to be, but he can't be worse than what you've got. My favourite pick in this draft for them has to be Tamorrion Terry, though. I think he fits perfectly in what they need. Darnold needs someone to go and get the ball. You saw Ryan Fitzpatrick's best season in Miami and how he kept using Devontae Parker. And it's because Devontae Parker is a 50-50 player. But it's never 50-50 when the ball goes towards him. It's 80-20 Parker. And Terry can be like that. He can be a player that makes every jump ball his. And with moves like this, I think the Jets can become, I don't want to say a contender in the AFC East, because they won't be. They're still a few years off Miami, and they could be a while off the Bills, but it puts them on the right path. That's all you can ask for Salah in this first year. Don't go over the top and make moves that are going to cost you years. Make the smaller moves, the high upside, low risk moves that can just push you forward slowly as a roster, as a team. That all being said, I hope you enjoy the video. If there's anything else you think the Jets could do, please let me know in the comments down below, or hit me up on Twitter at NFL Faulkner. Thank you very much for watching. I'll hopefully have a video up again tomorrow with more daily uploads. I hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.